Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? What is Who Am I? It's my little forum that I have invented to discuss from my perspective everything that matters to me. Who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? How did I get here? What's the point of being here? What's the object of the exercise? What's the meaning of my life? Actually, if you want to hear a description of the show, I have started describing it in these terms. It goes like this. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong thing. Who Am I is a stream of consciousness discussion of reality. Actually, I start out saying law of attraction meets unified physics. It's a stream of consciousness discussion of reality. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where are we going? What is source energy? How can a better understanding of ourselves and source energy solve the problems of humanity? Free us from fossil fuels, from gravity, and help us create an abundant future for all of us here on planet Earth. It's a discussion combining unified physics, law of attraction, and human psychology, all from a layman's perspective. Now, that is a very meaty description, and it is my challenge every day to live up to that. Now, I am going to come from a layman's perspective, so for instance, the unified physics isn't going to have a lot of actual math from coming from me, but I'll tell you, I can point to the math. The math has been done that unifies the forces at the quantum level. When you look into the atom, the forces holding the atom together, all of the stuff going on at this really small scale, and the forces involved, we haven't figured out how the math of how the forces at the quantum level in the atom, the forces that hold the atom together, how that relates to all the big forces you can see in the real world. Electromagnetism, gravity, Coriolis forces, electromagnetic fields, all the things that make up the big world, black holes and planets and stars and galaxies and the gravitational forces of all of that. How does that relate to the forces inside the atom? When you're looking down at the teeny, 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 tiny, how do those forces relate to the ones that you see in the big world? Because we haven't been able to figure that one out. Except that we have. 12 years ago, back in 2012, it was actually published in December, 12/12/2012. Nassim Haramein and probably a team of people. He probably didn't do it all by himself, but he might have published the first one by himself. The last paper that he published with people, he published with people, it was last September, The Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity. I don't mean to step on religious people's toes at all during my discussion of everything. Although we end up talking about things that are kind of big, that end up being, let's see, I gotta find my, no, it's not this one. Where did he go? I'll go back to here, I guess, although these are some of my favorite. Hold on. I'll just go back to my original one, my mushroom running boy. I just wanted to show you that paper for a second. The math has been done. If you are a scholar of the show, or a historian of the show, because I have been doing this since I think I published my first video, my first Who Am I show back in January 10th of this year. There's over 150 episodes. I don't do it every single day because we have traveled. Occasionally, we get up early and do something different. Next week, I'm going to have a week and a half. I got a flight I'm going to catch, and we're going to go up to Oregon and be gone for the whole week. And although it is technically possible, I could take my my laptop and do a show from there. And I have not yet done any traveling shows. Someday I want to. I want to just be able to do this anytime, anywhere. What was I saying? I don't want to step on religious toes. I actually, in a way, this information gives me more faith in my religion. I understand the faith part that my religion's trying to say. I understand the love part my religion's trying to say. Actually, all the meaning of everything sort of comes to you. You're like, oh, God is love. Ooh, it really is. But I am pushing back against no one. I know why I'm thinking of, in this manner as I'm doing the show. And I need to stop it. I need to not answer people directly. I need to just come from my own center and just say what I feel needs saying. See how it's hard to live up to that description? That lofty, lofty description. So we're sitting in a situation where we have you could think, I don't know if this is sacrilegious to think of it this way, but I believe we own a biotechnology. Our bodies act in a certain way. They are transmitters to the field. They are receivers from the field. You are getting at all times a gentle pulsing impulse from source that is telling you and your inner being everything about everything. And your inner being knows who you are, what you want, and a direction for you to go. But she only knows she can broadcast a general field of direction. You get to choose specifically for yourself within this field of all things possible and all things that you would like. All things that would tickle your fancy and what are all the expressions that mean tickle your fancy? There's so many different directions to come to this subject from. Some of them are pointed and some of them aren't. Some of are moving more quickly, and some of more are more philosophically musing. Do you know what I mean? Who am I? What is my design? What are the permanent laws of the universe? Regardless of your specific religion. Religion aside, all religions aside, there is no question from this vantage point, there's no questions about who's right and who's wrong. And actually, I have never seen religion in that manner anyway. I, at one point, pulled back to the, well, I just don't believe anything point, back to the clean slate, tabula rasa, pulled it all the way back to that point, and then said, okay, now I'm going to live my life and I'm going to figure this out. I had a dark night of the soul back when I was 14 years old, when I completely removed the template of the religion that I was born and raised with. And I'll tell you, it was a scary moment. It was scary because I remember the first night, all night long, I was haunted by fears of what was going to happen to my soul, what was going to happen to me. I had heard that the only way, from my religion's perspective, and I thought my religion was pretty kind this way. My religion's perspective was the only way you ever got to go to hell and be with the devil is if you understood the situation and chose that. In other words, you heard the truth of the gospel, and you rejected it. You decided to go the other way. Well, in my 14-year-old mind, that almost seemed like what I was doing, although I realize now that was not what I was doing. I was taking off a template of, it's a thought form template. It's like a lens to your inner mind. A religion is like a lens to your inner mind where everything about reality is seen through the lens of this religion, which is telling you this is what's true. And without that, you're just lost. Who are you? You know, you're adrift in a sea of, well, it's the question literally becomes, who are you and what's the meaning of your life? And for a while, I operated for quite a long time, actually until quite recently. It has started to coalesce to me as I realize how correct, in a way, all the religious people are. All the people who are harping on this, hey, wait a minute, God has a big something to do with something here. I don't know what it is. Well, a lot of times they purport to tell you exactly what it is. You know, it's exactly in this shape and form. And in this moment, this is what's going to happen. This is the shape of heaven. This is the meaning of everything and all this. And I wouldn't argue with any of that. It's sort of like the blind men and the elephant, which is one of my favorite parables. And it's one I refer to often because there's something really important to be gleaned from this story about all the blind men standing at the different points of the elephant, describing it in different ways. And they are all right, in a way. But they're not all right in the sense that they're not getting big enough. They're not realizing that it's not an or, it's an and. Maybe they realize it's an and. It all depends. How does that parable go? I'm not sure exactly what the blind men are doing. Are they arguing about it? No, it's a tree trunk. He's just like a tree trunk. No, he's just like a rope. No, he's much more like a snake. You know, or whatever. Are they arguing? Or are they getting together in good faith and good spirit and sharing their information, sharing their data? And then the whole thing becomes clear to all of them. They're like, oh, I get it. It's a bigger thing than, it's actually not. It has all of these aspects, but it's not like any of them. It's something bigger than that. It's something more than that. There's something emergent from all of these descriptions. It's an elephant. Ooh, how exciting. And I have always seen the argument about religious ideas to be exactly this same parable. We are all trying to describe a much bigger something. And this thing that we are trying to describe goes back billions of years. It actually goes back more than billions of years because there's no beginning to this beginning. We talk about the Big Bang that started 13.8 billion years ago, or 40, whatever the exact number is that anybody has figured out as they trace back all the effects to the moment that this universe went kaboom. Well, the new unified physics gives us a model for the Big Bang that shows it as Hawking radiation, flinging eeny-weeny particles off of black hole universes from one density of great, enormous more density. It's another scale of density, down to the sub-Planck. It is a universe of a different scale of density. Flings off a particle through Hawking radiation because it's a black hole, and black holes do that. Well, this particle hits a space, hits a universe or an area of much less density, much lighter density, and this particle expands rapidly, rapidly, rapidly. In less than a second, in one Planck instant, gets almost the size it is now. Just goes gaboom. We call it the Big Bang, but it's actually the way universes come into being. It's the birthing of universes, and it happens all the time. And there's jillions of them. Foaming universes, no end, an infinitude of universes. Now, how does your 2,000-year paradigm of your 2,000-year-old story that is the center of all things to your religion, how does that equate in a universe that literally has no end, has no beginning, and has no end? It's so big, it's so vast, it's so old, there's so many. Our Earth is not the only one with life. Life's got to be teeming out there. It has come to my humble opinion that our ticket to the cosmos is not going to be thrusting our phallic symbol shaped fossil fuel or fuel burning in general rockets upward into a space that we see from that. I think that from that dimension, from that direction, I think that our ticket to the galaxy is going to be to understand the nature of this quantum field that we are swimming in, this Planck field that we are a part of, that we are we are a field phenomenon. Each one of us individually and then all of us collectively. It works backwards and forwards. But I think it's important that we understand this field, that we understand unified physics, that we understand how the forces within the atom relate mathematically to the forces that we see conventionally, like gravity and electromagnetic fields and Coriolis forces and centrifugal forces and all of that. How does all of it relate? Well, how it relates is this. What the universe is made of is this field, solid field of Plancks. What's a Planck? A Planck is a teeny, teeny, tiny little frequency. The smallest frequency that you can have at this scale. If you want to have a smaller one, you got to go down to another scale of small. You've got to go from the Planck to the sub-Planck. That's how you're going to get a smaller one. And how you get that is a photon, which is just a packet of light. And it's moving at the speed of light because that's what a packet of light is going to do. It's moving at the speed of light, and a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter, is going to go another small. So you got a photon, which is pretty small. Its diameter is pretty small. It's even smaller. You know, the diameter of a photon. What's that? I don't know. It's really small. When you take that packet of light going at the speed of light, crossing that distance, that's a Planck. That's the smallest frequency you can get. And apparently, the 0-point energy field is this roiling sea of Plancks, all touching each other. And when they go into organization, when they organize and become the material world, when they go into spin, you call that materiality. You call that atoms and protons. And those atoms get together in clumps that you call rocks and things that you call stuff. Whatever. Apples. And you call it stuff. And when it doesn't go into spin, you call it empty space. But it's all Planck's. That's what this is. And actually, there is a relationship between what is holding the atom together is actually gravity. It's the same force. It is the same force. There is only one thing going on here. What is happening, the one to focus on is not, the force to focus on is the spin, because that's what it is. When it organizes, it spins, and you look at it and you see it as matter. And when it isn't spinning, you look at it and you see it as space. But it's all the same thing. It's a field of Planck's. And you're actually in this field of Planck's too. You are part of the field. And you're a field phenomenon, although you don't have to think of yourself as the field. That's you as the oneness with the rest of the group. But you don't really have to look at it that way, although you kind of do at a point. You do have within this field, and that's the caveat, within this field you have autonomous spin of your own. And this is your sacred divine autonomy unto this world. This is your piece of it that you have ultimate control over. What you do with it, whether you go into chaos or whether you go into coherence, whether you go into love or whether you go into hate, whether you go into organization or whether you devolve into chaos. That's all up to you. And what governs that within you is your focus and your attention. What do you put your focus and attention on? Are you putting it on your love and what you care about? And are you caring how you feel as you do so? Or are you seeing the physicality as primary and you're locked onto that? The physical world is not primary. It's there. It's not illusory. It's not an illusion. I know some people, they try to imagine it as an illusion, and then they scratch their head and try to figure it out, how that is. Well, even Einstein called it an illusion, although albeit a, what did he say, compelling one, a convincing one? He used some word that was analogous to that anyway. A very powerful illusion. It's an illusion, but it's really powerful. It's not actually an illusion. It's a secondary effect of the primary one, which is vibrational, because the whole universe is vibrational. You are vibrational. The universe is vibrational. All the stuff is vibrational, and it's sort of got a... To understand the nature of actual reality and then softly imagine the reality of your own nature and superimpose the two over each other, because you have to, because one contains the other. You are made of the other. You are made up of reality particles that the physics department understands. But I'll tell you, conventional physics doesn't really understand it. They have not unified the two. They don't understand where quantum and cosmological universes collide. They don't understand it. They know how to work the quantum world, and it is more accurate than any science that they have ever come up with. And then they sort of understand how to do the other one too, the Newtonian one with the things like calculus, figuring orbitals and trajectories, and they can tell you exactly what that star over there is made of. And there's all kinds of things that science is really, really good at. We have these amazing telescopes, radio telescopes, and just all kinds of interesting things that we are capable of doing. But what we have not figured out is how that quantum and the cosmological fit together. Einstein described gravity as the effect of mass bending space-time, and how that bending of space-time was what gravity was. And so, and Newton had his thing, the way he was what it actually is it is spin. Spin is what it is. It is the field going into spin. And then there's all these little individuated spins within this great field that is spinning. There's original spin, and then there's your individual spin. Now, what does that mean to you? What the hell does that mean to me? Well, it means a lot of things. First of all, it helps you understand your individual physical nature, because I got this one from Abraham. She's the one that got me to imagine this reality, and I can see it. So imagine that you are two swirling discs of attraction. They are your two minds, your source mind, your original spin mind that you are collectively with all the rest of the field. That's you as the rest of the field. Because you do have an identity of you as the rest of the field. And all of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about, you have to imagine it from the inside. You're imagining it from the inside, but you know what? There is a relationship between the inside and the outside. As above, so below. As within, so without. There's reflections, fractal, holistic, that's not the word, holographic reflections, back and forth of this wholeness. That's how you can have all the information of all the universe. You are a quantum fractal reflector. And when you get still and you get it pointed in the direction of all the rest of the universe, the whole universe reflects back to you within the great mirror that is at the center of your being. Ooh, I'm starting to talk wacky. Why do I talk about these things? There are two practical reasons. One is that a better understanding of your nature helps you understand your positive and negative emotions more clearly, so that you can build yourself a positive momentum in tandem, in concert with your greater self, who is actually positive. So if you can figure out how to get your individual self to be positive and focus in a positive way and build a positive momentum of intention and, pull a positive, it's just helpful to do that. If you can learn to do that, your life will unfold more easily, more lovingly, more kind, more satisfying, more connected to the rest of the world around you in understanding, comprehensive, and loving, interesting, dynamic ways. I don't know how to assure you that this is true, but it is. The more you find your real self, who is a positive self, I don't care who you are. You might be a very negative person, in which case you are not being your real self very much at all. And likely your whole life is reflecting that. It's hard for you. The road is bumpy. You are faced all the time with negative emotions, which throw you into a focus of right here, right now, all the time. And you're always looking around your very immediate self. And that's all that you can see that you are, and that's all that you can see that you have. When you actually are and have so much more. You actually are the entire universe. But you are the entire universe only from your little itty bitty self. And so what are you going to do with that? And also you have to have a knowledge that everybody else is too. And so it's not like you're God and everybody else isn't, you know. Don't get delusional that way. But you actually have quite a bit of power. But your power lies in your ability to align your conventional physical life with the greater you that you really are. And the greater you that you really are is purely vibrational. She is purely vibrational, and you take her through time with you wherever you go. She doesn't take the stuff with you, but all intention, all love, knowledge, interest. Uh, there's a continuum of you that you are. Now, whatever the exact specifics of, I'm not going to be talking about, you know, material specifics of anything we're talking about, although we are kind of, aren't we? We're talking about the immaterial specifics, where spirit meets reality. Who are you? Who are you? You are this continuum of intention, of desire, of understanding, of connection with the rest of the field and what all of it's been doing too. What Project Humanity is about. What is Project Humanity? That's us, trying to figure out who we are collectively as a species, who we are moving through time, who we are individually as individuals, and my own individual project, because I gotta tell you, from my perspective, that's the only one I have immediate control over. Now, I have a lot of influence over a field that's a little bigger than me. The people that love me, I have influence over them from that perspective. Through their love, I have influence in the sense that because they love me, they might look my direction occasionally and smile. And you know what? That's where you start. But you can make it bigger than that. The more positive that you can live your life, the more of your positive nature that you can blow into life, into your being, into your experience, into your actions, the more of that you can bring to the table, the more influence you have on the field. Abraham says it like this. She says, those who are in alignment are more powerful than millions who are not. Now, Bashar has a different formula, and he has it expanding. As the years are going by, those of you who are in positive states are equal to X number of people out there in the population as far as influence goes. And as the years increase, that influence is more. Back when he was first saying this, in the early 2000s, the effect was like 100 people. And by 2013, it was going to be 1,000 people. And by 2020, it was going to be 100,000. By 2025, it was going to be 1 million. And by 2037, there were going to be billions of people on the planet in a positive state, understanding the nature of our situation and living out of it appropriately and productively and positively. And I find that enormously heartening. I have a feeling that he is not wrong, because I have been studying the field of consciousness and spirituality since the 80s. The 80s were my 20s. Now, it was my dark night of the soul happened in the 70s when I dropped my religion and just left. I became, as I said earlier, I don't want to use a phrase like this too often, I became tabula rasa. I moved my operating system, my iOS, the top of my computer system, I moved it to just an open mind. I am now open. I am open and allowing, and I'm just going to go live life, and I'm going to go give it a good try. Give it the old college try. I gave college a try too. Did not get a degree, but I went for I got 100 credits. I just didn't ever get the degree. I went back later, cobbled together what I could, went to school for another 2 years, and got my AA in general studies. So I got my college degree. I gave it the old college try though. I took my open mind and I went out and I just, by the seat of my pants, I was a bartender. I dated. I actually, someday I will tell you the in-depth story. It's actually quite unusual, but everyone has an unusual story. We all do, and everyone has a different story. I am a completely different universe than anybody else. Nobody else even has the same parents. Not even my full siblings had the same parents I had. Because my parents were in a different stage of their development and understanding and the way, and I was in a different part of the strata structure of I was the youngest of a very large family. That is different than being the oldest of a very large family or stuck in the middle of a very large family. Or, there were 4 first cousins in the group and 4 full siblings in this very large family, plus parents. No pets. Too much going on for pets in that situation. We had hamsters for a minute, but anyway, that's all neither here nor there. It was the tabula rasa. And then I went forth and gave it the old college try, and I was successful in some ways and not successful in other ways. And all the time, I would live some life and then reflect and ponder on the lessons that I had learned. What I learned right away had to do with different states of being. When I hit certain states of being, things would always go better than when I would release other states of being. Releasing the negative really never went well. And upon reflection afterwards, I was always... and then there were times when I would rise. For some reason, I would rise and react in a higher way. And then I would ponder and reflect upon how much better of a response I got from that person there would be people that I would want to manipulate. I wanted that I loved them and they didn't love me, and you want to throw things at them and pout and be negative in some way, but instead you rise and then they react in this way that's so much better. And then you go, well, I didn't actually get them to do exactly what I want, but boy, was that more satisfying. And a collection of all that kind of thinking through all of my life. What I remember the main point I was going to get at, which was that in the last, I don't know how many years, since the 80s, I guess, that's what I said, consciousness has risen mightily. Masters and gurus and teachers used to be relatively rare. And now I feel like I am a teacher and a guru myself, but I am in a sea of thousands of wise people. They're all over Gaia. They are all over the internet. Now, it depends on what you're focusing on. If you are focusing on the darkness, then you're probably noticing all the scary people out there too, because there's plenty of that. It has to do with what's inside of you. What you are pulling alive inside of you turns out to be what you are igniting, what is igniting in the world around you, and what you are noticing. So if you're noticing way too many pervs and peeves and peds, no, is that it? Is that what would that be a nickname for a pedophile? A ped and a perv? Or, murders or scary people. If you're noticing the bad news more than you're noticing good news, it's a personal problem. What I have had to do in order to really get a good lock on the world I am interested in creating, in moving towards, in understanding, and being a part of its unfolding. In order to do that, I have had to pull my attention away from physical reality somewhat. Get dreamy, daydream more. Watch period pieces, watch masterpiece theater more. Read books. Gaze out at the sunset over a setting sea, the setting sun over a beautiful sea. I didn't say that very well. I did not conjure that picture as I ought to have. Get your mind off of the reality around you that's bothering you as much as you can. Because what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to come back at that same subject from a different direction. So if it's bothering you, then you're not coming at it from a direction where you can feel the movement of the improvement of the solution. If you find a way to come at it from the solution direction, then looking at that subject no longer bothers you. Now it's like, oh yeah, this is now an opportunity for us. Sometimes you have to look at, well, what I've been practicing doing for all my life, I think, is that hitting this vantage point of the broader perspective. I don't know why I have wanted to do this, but from this vantage point, I realize that every single human being has this capability. They just don't all have the inclination to want to do it, and that's fine. You don't have to hit the broader perspective if you don't want to, but whatever you are doing should be in alignment with the broader perspective. That's when you don't need to consciously know what you're doing if you unconsciously are doing it correctly. And how would that be? You know those people who are really just positive. They're positive. They have faith. They're always loving and kind. They're always, throw in an open mind and you've really got it going on. Now, sometimes those people who are very loving and kind and they are very, very positive, you can turn them negative. Why would I say this? Let me see whether I even want to say this. Okay, what's my ultimate point? My ultimate point is all of these things that I want to talk about, unified physics and how the Planck field works and how this divine matrix shakes out and how it connects us all in this really cool way, this energy field that connects us all. There is a field of energy that matrixes us all together. And this matrix, this energy field, the reason that it's important, the energy field, the interpretation of it, the understanding of it can be felt through your emotions. But your emotions are actually, they have to do with the thoughts that you're thinking. They aren't just a raw, pure. There's not a pure relationship between the feelings that you feel and the condition out there that you feel them about. There's not a pure relationship. There is an in-between, the go-between between the condition out there and your feelings, your emotions about that condition out there. The go-between, in between those two things, is your physical mind. Your physical mind has thoughts about the world. And it's those thoughts that are giving you the emotions that you're having. It's how the thoughts that you are having relate to the thoughts that your broader perspective is having about the same thing at the same time. Because you have a larger self that with you is coming all the way down from its big place to the small where you are, but it is looking at what it's looking at. It is interested in what it's interested in. What it is interested in is actually what you are interested in. But you may be, instead of paying attention to what you are interested in, you may be paying attention to what you are afraid of or what you're worried about. You're focusing in the wrong way. You're not focusing in a very helpful, productive way. But it has happened to you, and your understanding of it can go a long way towards helping you make sense of your positive and negative emotions, your possessiveness or your jealousies or your anxieties. We live in a world where like millions of our young people live in chronic anxiety all the time. Unformed, unnamed, they can't even, they're afraid. They're just afraid. It's because their circuit is not grounded. They're just, I feel, and they're not completing the circuit, and they're not connected. They're not grounded to the rest of the field around them. They don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here. They don't understand how their emotional guidance system works. They don't understand how they relate to the rest of life around them. How do I get what I want? Their wants are very disconnected with from their needs, and perhaps driven by peers and the internet and commercialism and weird superstitious nonsense that their parents might be teaching them, either within or not within an organized religion. It could be a hybrid mishmash of weird things driven by dark ideas. So what do we do about this? Well, I think a general understanding of our equipment and the laws of the universe and our relationship to the rest of the field around us will help. I just think so. And I do it from my own perspective because it helps me stay in alignment with who I really am and what I really want, what's important to me. Now, it turns out that in my life, peace has been the most important driving factor of my life. Peace is all I ever wanted. Peace and intellectual wing spreading, if that's the right expression, because I enjoy the intellectual play of my mind. My seeking mind wants to have something to grab onto. So it turns out there's plenty here. There's plenty of meat in understanding the physics of who we are. And then the psychology of understanding who we are. And who are you? Well, you are part of this field. So you're bigger than who you are. So this is how I have come to understand it. And this is one of the formulas I always work with. Even if I'm working with just a team of 2, or a team of 5, or a team of 12, it doesn't matter. However big the team is, the paradigm has got to be win-win. And so if you're trying to get along with your spouse, you figure out a win-win place. Win-win, 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 win-win. And it's helpful if you start with someone who is emotionally compatible with you to begin with. Who, now since I am a person of great peace, the person that I ended up choosing after my very volatile. So I picked one who was more momentum because I was younger and I was in the middle of a different momentum. And he drove me to the children that I ended up wanting more than anything but did not realize. Um, there's a part of my soul wanted my children because they had something to teach me about who I am and about who we are and about what love is and about what life is and what the energies are and all of that sort of thing. And I needed the momentum back in the day because I was way too la-di-da-di peaceful. I didn't have enough ambition. Wisdom I might have had some, but I was still on my own in a world that expected me to make a living, take care of myself, grow up, mature, be part of the rest of the world. And so I did. And I was successful to a point and not successful to another point because I had chained my carriage to a wild freaking pony who ended up dying young. He burned hot and died out, burned out young. He died in a car accident at 36 years old when the girls were only 5 years old. And then peace came back. And I was not addicted to that kind of momentum. I certainly wasn't. I'd been scorched by the experience. It was hot and volatile and scary. The whole time I was afraid that we were going to end up chained to someone in prison for continuing to drink and drive. Had he lived in that accident, he might have been driving. There's a conflict there's a question about whether he was. He died in Mexico. And there's conflicting reports about whether he was driving or not. Had he lived and been driving and the guy he was with died, he'd still be in a prison in Mexico for murder, for homicide. So that was terrifying me at the time, that was going to be our life. But when that season passed, I wasn't addicted to that, so I didn't go find another one. I didn't go find another crazy ride to be on. I was tired of that crazy ride, and I found someone who was utterly peace in a way, emotionally just neutral peace. You could get him to go. He was neutral to positive, neutral to positive, and that suited me just fine. And now that I am maturing even more and I have this thing inside of me that wants to speak of who we are and what this matrix is and what the meaning of life is, I find that he is a wonderful foil. He's just retired and he's looking for physical life, something for us to do, and he's peaceful, and I love that. And so why did I even say any of these things? I had a point I was driving to. Most of the time I don't talk about myself, and I don't really want to. It doesn't matter. Except for you to understand how and why I understand things that I do understand. So that you can understand. Who am I? So let's get back to the 2 spinning discs of attraction. You are 2 spinning discs of attraction. One is the spinning disc of attraction that your source self is. Your original spin. The spin that you share with all the rest of the field. And you share other spins too. Smaller and larger ones. There's the total spin, the total perspective vortex, the total vortex, the whole one that you share with the whole field. And then there are smaller spins that break off from there. The biofield, the human morphogenetic field, that's another spin. Then there's, the spin of the organization of whatever the organization is, the nation, the state, the bowling league, the softball league, the church. What are you organizing for? the ice cream social for the school, the education system. They're all organizational spins of organization is what they are, and each one of them is a kind of a morphogenetic field of information. Your family is like a morphogenetic field of information, data flow. Why does all this matter? Well, so you as your individual self, you are composed of two spinning disks of attraction. One of them is your source one, that original spin that we are all spinning with. And then the other one is your individual self. That's your physical mind, the one that you pull together, that you call you. The one that has free agency to turn in a 360 spherical direction, and whatever direction you want. You can turn in the direction of flow with the field. You can turn exactly in the opposite direction and fight your way upstream, fighting battles every step of the way, with bristling with resistance. You can play it that way. But what's happening, your emotions are a result of how you are blending your two selves. Are you blending them or not? Your greater self knows what your needs are. Bashar tells us that the basic needs are as follows, and there are 7 of them. And this is the order that they are in the order of how quickly you will die if you do not have these things. The first one is air. You'll be dead in just a couple minutes if you don't have that. Just a few minutes. The second one is water. You'll be dead in a few days if you don't, or I don't know how long it'll be before you're dead. It won't take you that long to be. Of course, it depends on whether you're asleep or whether you're, I don't know. Water. You need water. The third one is actually sleep. You will go psychotic and die in some weird way if you don't have sleep, probably before you will die of not eating food. Now, there are exceptions to all this based on specific circumstances of this and that and blah, da, 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 da. But these are the general physical, biological needs in order to stay alive. After sleep is food, then shelter. And it doesn't have to be a house. It's any kind of sheltering environment. So that you're not always being blistered to death by scorching heat that your skin can't take, or, you need a sheltering environment of some sort. And then the 6th one is you need relationship. You need to have a sense of yourself in relationship to something else. And it doesn't have to be another human being. It could be a relationship with the cosmos. It could be a relationship with a non-human, a dog, or it could be, you just have to see yourself in relationship to something and have a living relationship with it. And then the last one is expression. And if you don't get that expression in some way, then you will just start to freeze up. You'll start to calcify and ossify and slow down until you are no more, until you have nothing left to say, and then you die. But even that's okay. That's okay, because we are not just ourselves. We are the whole project, people. We are the whole thing. And that's a really blessed and interesting thing to realize. But don't let it cut out for you how important it is that you man your individual space. You don't sacrifice yourself, not even your sense of self, for the wholeness that we are. The wholeness that we are is comprised blessedly of every one of us being our individual selves. feeling our individual call from source. Remember, you are these two spinning discs of attraction, and you really are both of these. And if you would get one of them that you have control over aligned up with the other one that you really are, that you have no control over, the bigger one, get the little one lined up with the bigger one, and then be that. Don't cross your energy field don't cross your, so as I am being myself, don't have my actions be in contradiction to the needs that I have, or in contradiction to who I really am. I see that I have now passed the hour mark, so it is now fair game to end the show. I gotta come back tomorrow and try it again and again and again and again. Now, why do I do this? Part of it is I'm really not trying to start a new religion. Not at all. I want everyone to understand the religion they've already got. That's what I want them to do. They've got beautiful organization within the religious structure that you've got that's taking care of pedagogical realities of our lives. That's really important. Helping people get married and raise children and mourn when they die and things like that. The receiving of children into the new tribe, new children into the old tribe, whatever. All of that is part of what our religions do for us. I don't want to throw away our religions. I want us all to understand all of our religions and understand where they are cosmologically in error and where they are spiritually in not agreement, because that would be agreement with what? In truth, I guess, where they are accurate, where they are vibrationally accurate, and where the shape of them falls into the explanation of that shape of that came from the cosmology of the day that they were organized, and no blame, no judgment. Let's just pull it into the 21st century, people. Let's pull it all into the 21st century. Let's understand our inner being, the Holy Spirit. Let's understand this creature. She is vibrationally in touch with all of reality, with all of how reality is, with what everybody is doing out there in any moment of time, at all times. And she is trying to guide you to your best life, your best action, your highest good. And it's not like for your own good, like vegetables that you hate, that you don't want to eat, that mom tries to make you. It's not like that. It's like what you want. You want to walk that way because that's what you want. Whether it has to do with, classic cars or fabulous foods, or, what is calling you? What do you feel it in your soul? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in every moment? Actually, your inner being is trying to lead you to your highest, most satisfying life. And it's not just an ultimate destination. It's what she's trying to lead you to is a life utterly bursting full with satisfying moment after satisfying moment after satisfying moment after satisfying moment, pop with beauty and excitement and surprise, and then peace and satisfying moment and that kind of a thing. Not, you might think, well, when I have that house or when I have that car, then I can start being happy and I will live. That's the goal, is that the goal is every satisfying, life-sustaining step along the way with everyone that you love, your family, your friends, people you work with, everything that matters to you. your favorite colors, your favorite flavors, your favorite smells, your favorite experiences. Let them call you, and feel in every moment your inner being calling you, calling you, calling you to where you really want to be. Don't let your physical brain cut you out. Well, I will probably have to explain that at some point. Your inner being is this call of feeling inside of you. It's 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 ongoing. It's every moment, every moment, every moment, every moment. And your thoughts, how do I explain this? You have these two selves, these two spinning discs of attraction. One is your source mind, the other is your physical mind. Your thoughts that you take every day about everything either blend or do not blend with your higher self. If you're used to lofty, high, broader perspective thoughts, then they probably do blend pretty well. But how do you live in those lofty, broader perspective thoughts and in a specific physical life at the same time? That's the task. That's the challenge. How do you be who you really are in this physical plane? In this density, actually, it's a density. It's the same density that it's not the same density. It's a different density. It's the same world as the one we live in our dreams. It's just that this one is at a density where what you think and feel does not produce the immediate change of scenery like it does in your dreams, because it's a different density. So there's a delay. And that delay gives you time to work things out, to think about stuff, to do it more deliberately. In your dreams, you feel the fear and the monster is there. Here in this density, if you feel the fear, you have a bit of time before the monster arrives. And you have a bit of time where you can figure out how to shift your fearful thoughts into more conducive thoughts, so that you will... How you're feeling is an indication of where you're going. So you don't want to really stay in a fearful place for too long, because it is an indication that you are going to have a rough ride. You need to learn how to care for your states of being primarily, and then address the physical world after that. I don't know. I have a feeling I have to explain that stuff too. It's going to sound selfish. But you do have to have a certain amount of selfishness about this, because if you are not bringing your positive self to the table to address whatever issue that you are concerned about, the problems of your children or your parents or your nation or whatever, if you are selfishly working on your own state of being instead of, if you're acting on your negative self, you're not helping the problem anyway. That's why it is so important to care for your own state of being first. If you don't feel good, go take care of yourself. And when you feel better, come back and address it again from a better feeling place. The problems will still be there. Sixth mass extinction, war that just will not quit, negative philosophies that people don't understand what the problem is with them. The problem with those negative philosophies is a misunderstanding of the negative in the first place. Who is our negative self? Our negative self is a partial piece of ourself. It's not that it's entirely wrong, but since it is not bringing the whole self to the picture, it is not succeeding in moving in the direction of what we want. It is still... So I've talked about this for an hour and 10 minutes. And I think that that's enough for the day. I know I've not covered it all. I have not even today, I didn't even mention getting off of fossil fuels and what that is going to do to humanity. And you might say, well, I can't even imagine us getting off fossil fuels. So don't imagine us getting off fossil fuels. Let's imagine this first. How about if we have something that adds to our energy source so that all of a sudden we rather quickly have a lot more energy to run all the things that we're already doing. Free, clean energy that doesn't darken the skies more, that doesn't pollute the waters more, that doesn't, none of that. Just imagine that. Can you imagine that that's possible? Now, the effect of that is going to be quickly people getting off fossil fuels. But there's so much fossil fuel infrastructure everywhere, it's hard to even imagine that. But I can imagine it. You can get far enough away from, the picture in your mind where you can go, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see where we can do that. We can do that. And it isn't going to be just another paradigm like we've got now with centralized power, creating centralized energy, creating centralized power. That's what the big problem with the ruler of the world is. The emperor, the autocrat, that's what the problem is. It's centralized power. And when we can scatter that power into all of the hands of all the individuals, into the hands of the masses, you've got to trust the masses. I know it seems implausible. Jefferson did. He knew also that it was a tricky thing. Do you hand all the power to the elites who are educated and know about the world and understand these things more? Or do you hand it all to the people? Do you really believe in democracy? Do you really believe that all of the regular people collectively have the wisdom there? They would if they were given the right information to begin with. Who am I and how does this energy flow? What is my positive self? What is my negative self? All of these questions. And we're going to keep asking them every day, every day, every day for somewhere between an hour and however long till I get tired and I got to go start my day. Today is the day that our first customers arrive at the Airbnb. They'll only be there for one night, but that means we'll get our feedback really quick. Anyway, until tomorrow, I think I will be back tomorrow and the next day for the next week until we go on our little vacation. At which time I will take a few days off, sleep in late, walk around a golf course with my husband on the coast of Oregon. Come back and tell you all about it, where we will keep talking about who am I. Until tomorrow. So, until tomorrow, just remember, love each other. Do the best you can. We are all in this together. And until tomorrow, as always, may the source be with you.